Good morning, everyone. My name is Syril Pettit. I am the Executive Director of the ILSI Health and Environmental Sciences Institute. And on behalf of HESI and my program co-chairs, Ron Hines, Andrew Mazar, sort of wave your hands over here, and Brian Berridge, and Mark Bonnefoy, who is here in absentia, so to speak. We'd very much like to welcome all of you today to the inaugural HESI CITE workshop. CITE, or Combining Interdisciplinary and Translational Expertise, is a new program for HESI, and it seeks to bring diverse experience and structure to the process of moving science from discovery to application. So we are really very pleased that all of you have chosen to be part of this program today. And when I finish my remarks, we'll spend some time going around the room, getting to know each other. And the organizers and I are aware of the diversity of experience and expertise that are here today, and we want to give all of you the chance to learn about that before we get started, because that's going to be really essential to our discussions. So very quickly, I'd like to start with a bit of an overview of HESI for those of you who are not familiar with the organization. HESI, or the Health and Environmental Sciences Institute, is a global scientific foundation. We are a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. The organization serves as a forum for pooling resources and expertise to address current issues in environmental sciences and human health. The organization partners with scientists and researchers from industry, academia, and government, as well as from nonprofit organizations from around the globe. So just in the last year, HESI has partnered with more than 100 different organizations worldwide. These are pharmaceutical companies, chemical companies, consumer product organizations, ag chem companies, researchers from the regulatory agencies and government agencies worldwide, North America, Europe, Asia, South America, as well as leading academic institutions. And all of them work together to collectively identify issues, to collectively resolve those issues through collaborative programs and committees. At the end of the day, it's all about improving science, the science of discovery and the science of safety to improve public health. The crux of HESI's programs, and the reason that all of you are invited here today, is because they are all focused on collaboration as their primary mechanism of operation. And each one of you brings with you a unique set of experiences in the collaboration space, and that's a good deal of what we'll be talking about. And it really is very much an exciting time to be in the collaboration field right now, I think for all of us. When we consider the concept of public-private collaborations, of partnerships between academia, industry, and government, I think we've seen a tremendous upswing in the acceptance, or at least the frequency of acknowledgement of this big idea, of this concept as possibly the future of science in the 21st century. Without having done any quantitative analysis on this point, I think it's fair to say that we've seen a significant uptick in the scientific literature, in public policy, in the popular media, in calls for collaborative consortia, in calls for public-private partnerships, in the concept of bringing teams together to support innovation, with the concept that in the era of big data, we need big resources and big, diverse partnerships to get at the meaning and the value to impact public health. So as all of these things have trended upward over the last probably 5 to 7 years, that comes with a tremendous opportunity for all of us to be part of this and to help realize its impact. But it also comes with some very significant and very real challenges. So what I'd like to show you now is a figure drawn from a report that was published in the last 6 weeks, the PCAS, Presidential Council on Advancing Science and Technology here in the United States. And this is a report, advice to the US president with regard to how to enhance the US's position of strength in developing appropriate science and developing innovations and public health products that are going to be of value to the population. So this figure is a case study drawn from the pharmaceutical sector. However, it's relevant to, the lessons are relevant to really any sector. So within this report, what this figure is going to show is the relationship between an increased investment over time and the rate of approval of new drugs. So what we see is that since 1975, when this graph starts, on out to the present, there is a fairly steady increase in the amount of funding poured into research and development. When you look at the rate of new drugs approved, it's definitely stochastic, but it's certainly not increasing with the same slope as the investment. And I know there's some economists in the audience today and business majors as well, and I'm not going to argue the investment strategy here, but the point that I think that we can take away from this for purposes of this meeting is that there is clearly one deficiency here that even as a non-economist is obvious to me, and that's translation. What we failed to do in these instances is translate the investment, translate the effort, translate the research into an outcome that's going to have a public health impact. And this is really one of the key focuses of the CITE initiative and one of the key points of discussion for our meeting over the next day and a half. So I'd like to take a second and define for you translation in the context of this meeting, at least how the organizers have thought about it. So for many of us here, or some of us here, certainly for the world that I sit in most times in my day job, translation in the toxicology context usually means taking data generated within an animal model and extrapolating it to a human specimen, a human person, a human condition. But the context of translation that we need to focus on today in the context of this meeting is much, much more broad and ultimately much more important. What we will be talking about is the concept of identifying human health and environmental needs and then developing appropriate innovations, appropriate discoveries that meet those existing human health and environmental needs. And then moving those from the innovation and discovery phase out to the phase where we've actually got a product, we've got a program, we've got a methodology, an approach, a model that really helps to meet these needs and produces a human or environmental health benefit. That's the translational challenge that we have as a collaborative community, and that's the translational challenge that I hope we'll spend some time addressing over the next day and a half. So that issue of translation is something that I think about quite a bit in my capacity as executive director of HESI. I think about it on the micro scale with regard to our individual programs. How do we ensure that the research sees an impact? Think about it more on the macro scale of the organization. How do we ensure that the products reach an impact? But have also been trying to consider it in a much broader scale, as a community scale. How do we get at this issue? How do we effectively move a big idea like collaborative translational science to the point where it has an impact on public health in the way we want? So I've been sort of seeking different models and different concepts for considering this. So those of you who know me pretty well know that I'm a runner, and I spend a lot of time on the trails in Arlington and DC, logging a lot of miles. And recently I have started listening to Audible, to books on CD, and so I've been listening to Steve Jobs' biography. So many of you may have read it. Those of you who haven't read it are certainly familiar with his life. He is in many ways a pinnacle of how not to treat your friends and your family. But if you can get past all of that, he is also a really remarkable example of how you take the concept of a big idea and you implement it. How do you make that happen considering every one of the tiny details? So he's given me actually quite a bit, the book has given me quite a bit to think about those concepts and those approaches and how they can apply within the scientific context as well. That process that is magic. And that, I think, is a really interesting thesis for us to wrap around over the next day and a half. These big ideas of collaboration, of partnership, of moving science from innovation to application. Probably 10 years ago, there was not a lot of consensus around this is a good way to go. This is something that we as a community should embrace. But as that has gained acceptance, the challenge for us as a community, the obligation that we have, is to consider that process. How do we integrate all of those 5,000 things that Jobs refers to into making this an effective way of moving science forward, of addressing the challenges that are out there, and allowing us to have the kind of public health impact that we seek to have through these partnerships. I think we would all agree that this is a very effective and positive way to move forward, but there are undoubtedly numerous challenges to making this work in the right way. And what I hope we can do over the next day and a half is embrace what we're terming the CITE challenge. Is can we use our collective experiences, and they are many in this room, to begin to define a roadmap to move these big ideas forward. Specifically, can we spend some time thinking about ways to tactically refine focus and priorities to optimize synergy across existing collaborations and programs? Can we develop perhaps perspectives on how to pool resources across consortia or across stakeholders to move these things forward in a prioritized and effective and efficient and considered and tactical manner? And ultimately, is it possible to define best practices to drive translation forward? I think we've all seen that the calls are out there, the experience is out there in numerous consortia, and all those of you who were invited to be here today were invited because you can bring those experiences. There's tremendous learnings that are out there in the community already, but one of our opportunities here, I hope, over the next day and a half is to extract those learnings, extract those messages, and use them to drive the process forward effectively and efficiently in a way that can really provide a benefit to public health. So with that, I will conclude my introductory remarks. And again, welcome all of you here. We have a really exciting set of presentations for you over the next day and a half. And if you've had a chance to look through the program, you'll see that it's structured to move from more plenary-focused presentations to increasingly interactive presentations, concluding with breakout sessions on tomorrow. So we hope that you will be very interactive, that you will contribute extensively, and we are going to give you this morning to listen and absorb a bit and get warmed up, but hope that by this afternoon and this evening and tomorrow, the juices will really be flowing, and that we will be at a point by tomorrow afternoon that we will actually have generated some concrete recommendations that we can try to move forward as a community.